welcome back, guys, to another episode of The Shrine. A special one. It's on a Sunday. Sunday morning. You know what they say, easy as Sunday morning. I don't know where that came from.
You know, the people that skip indulging your Sunday morning, so you should tell us what you do on Sunday morning that is easy.
I don't know, I just also hear the saying.
Yeah, I've never heard of it, so since you're the one that has heard of it, surely you're in a better position than us.
Improve your reading. Anyway.
I read the Msaja movie.
Good morning, guys. And with me today we have a new panelist. Swan said he was not technical enough for today's topic. Swan, we shall do the heavy lifting for you today. Don't worry.
He will be back when we're discussing beer.
Yeah. Why bars are still closed.
When conspiracy theories, who bombed the Diggy?
Was 9/11 real?
Yeah, we'll invite him there.
But introduce yourself, new panelist.
Thanks for the invite. Isaac.
Okay.
We are at the Shrine, so you have to say your African name.
It's Makumbi Ssambwa.
Makumbi
Ssambwa.
Ssambwa.
Interesting.
Okay.
Introduce yourself also for the first time viewers.
Okay, for the first time viewers, Mugisha Mkoba.
Yes. So today's topic is one that's, as according to Swan, technical, but I don't see the technicality of it. These things should be basic. It's been brought about by the recent IPO of MTN, but we tried to go beyond that and say what this means to the general public and in general the whole Capital Markets Authority of Uganda. Has it helped the ordinary Ugandan? What does it actually mean? Not that this whole hullabaloo of shares, we keep hearing shares, investing in shares. What does it actually mean to the struggling corporates like the ones I'm seated with here? First of all, IPO. What does IPO mean?
IPO in full means initial public offering. So this refers to the first time a company trades its stock publicly. So for a company to get off the ground, some basics, it needs money. So how it sources this money is the question. So before anyone knows who you are and wants to give you money, you have to find a circle of investors willing to give you money on private. So those are the private investors, because your shares are not being traded publicly at that point. It's just private investors come, they give you money, you pitch to them, you propose to them an idea, they fund it, right? They fund it on the basis of they're getting returns on the investment, right? In more mature markets, they look for a liquidity event, which for most companies is the IPO, because the person has been putting in money and say the returns have not been enough to cover, even the initial sums put in, but he sees that the company is growing, it has a bright future, the future is very bright. The bright is very future. So a liquidity event is when now me as the person who came in at the beginning, or the initial funders of your venture get to cash out. So they're holding stock. When they IPO, it means the company as a company is looking to raise additional money, right? So I have grown, but now the scale of activities or operations as a company I want to engage in have exceeded the capacity of my initial funders, or maybe they now want to return some of their money. And now as a company, I have been turning a profit and I'm more valuable now than when I started. And so to get more money, I go out into the public because they now know me, I have some brand recognition, I have some good books, I have a prospectus, I have 6 years of activity.
Trying to be technical.
Alright, good, I'm saying. No, like if
think about solving.
So if you go and break it down, like if now a stranger on the road comes and asks me how is your business performing, I have all the paperwork at hand. I tell him what I know because I like this percentage of profits. You guys like him could have said, how do I join? Right? So now I IPO. I go and I offer my shares for the first time. So as a company, it allows me to raise money, and it allows some of my initial funders to also sell some of their shares and get a return on investment.
I see.
And then at that point, any newcomer right? Now also gets to share in the dividends, if any, are announced.
That's an IPO. Do you have any other way to put it or in a simpler way?
The one we're covering, especially, I think the case was they were compelled by government in the new license.
No, that's in a general
sense.
in
a general sense. Yeah. I think it's covered.
I see. So, someone asked me with how much do you think, on a scale, I don't know, any scale you want to use, how much do you think the public is literate about this whole share capital, whole this capital markets thing?
Now, if you go to the numbers in terms of the people who are active on the stock exchange in Uganda, people know MTN. That is true. But
people know Simpler, all the other
yes. No. People know MTN. Simpler is more of a,
Yeah.
drug manufacturer. People don't know those things very well. But MTN is a consumer kind of company. So there people know the company. But in terms of ownership of MTN, how to do it, we have like 40,000 accounts on the stock exchange. 20,000 are Kenyan and international, and 20,000.
Wow.
So very, very limited number. Out of 40 something million Ugandans.
Last I checked, there were like 16, 17 companies listed. How many?
There are about 12, I think. Then I think 13. I think you're not far from the number.
I think it's 16, 17. 16, 17.
It's right around there. But I think if you're looking at local ones, there are fewer because we have a lot of companies cross listed from the Nairobi.
Oh, no, I mean, yeah. I see. Do you guys, someone asked the question I was originally actually about to ask, do you guys think it should be a law that all flourishing companies should make an IPO within the first 5 years? Do you think?
No, I don't.
Why?
It's capital, okay? So how a company, how capital works, right? To those who have more shall be added onto them. Okay? So if I come, right, they raise money from one Serubidi, yeah? Tell you, man, Serubidi, I have my small venture. It doesn't need much capital to get off the ground, right? Buy your cut the Ubidi, to get to select deal. You give me your 2 million, okay? I collect another 1, 2, so the money, and then we start going, right? If I reach a point where it's flourishing and I'm paying with decent returns, right? And I am now forced to sell, okay? When you come to the legalese of selling shares in a company, there are a couple of things you have to be aware of. The first one is, what class of shares am I selling? Not all shares are equal.
Yes.
Alright? So there are actual ownership shares, there are shares that give you just returns, there are shares for the sake of saying I'm a shareholding, there are shares that allow you to vote, there are shares that allow you to tell your niece on graduation, you know I am a shareholder, I will give you a job. You just bring your papers. There's all that. Shares. So there's all that, right?
Yeah.
And then there's also the fact that of share dilution. Okay, and oversubscribing of shares. There's all that legalese to get into. So you may find that now the original people that came with me, all right, that funded this venture. If a company is doing particularly well, right, and we manage to stumble upon a gold mine and do wonderful things, right, the Sudeals of this world will come and just oversubscribe or dilute the shares. Because again, shareholding comes with voting and responsibility and all those things. You can lose control of the company, right? So you'll soon find, sooner rather than later, especially in an economy, in a country, in a society like ours, that you who started it may soon very quickly lose control of that entire venture. True. And so the government may just be compelling you to give up shares, sell shares, and at the end of the day, the guys that buy the shares and who by default get the dividends, right? It's just reconcentrating capital in the same few hands.
But what do you think? Should it be a must?
I don't think it would be fair on, it's very, I think it's like like in nature, you want diversity. Some companies are best left private, and then some companies, it's more of a public good. So it may be better if it has more scrutiny, because remember when you come to the stock market, people will look at every single page of what you do. So I think the diversity it's better when things are diverse, because even just to speak, for example, to pull some companies, these things are very difficult to do. If someone is to pull up, I'll give you an example of that, like Uganda Place. It's a company founded in the 50s. It was an Italian family visiting, but they already were doing the manufacturing in their country. Now, over the years, that company has been battered. It went down literally because it was going to collapse. Now, if at one point you make every company there are companies which are extinct already. They founded them, they had a very good 10 years or a good 3 years at the start, and then the business model is obsolete. Now, if they get into the stock market and the business model goes obsolete, people are going to cry.
Well, the person who asked me to ask the question was look at it from he's a government spy, I will not say his name, but was looking at it from a perspective of reducing repatriation. For example, the current Mugore MTN, there's all that, how they make, management fees,
yes, those
fees,
and
buying technology from their Mauritian holding company.
Every company exists solely to make money and enrich the shareholders. There is no company in any corner of the world that really gives a flying hoot about the government. You're the government, figure yourself out, right? But the way I see it, a government does not really need to force you to list, to fight expatriation, to fight capital flight, profit repatriation. It really doesn't. The government has other tools at its disposal. It can cap some of these management fees. It can, enact new tax laws. It can, using tax havens. There's a lot
they
of
have tried, but they're still struggling.
No,
These
because-
accountants are getting more creative with this transfer price.
Another approach that's generally used in most, if you look at, for example, if you look at a country like South Africa, they went through like 40 years of isolation. Now, what they used to do is, whenever a company would be formed, it goes global, but doesn't go to South Africa. So what they did aggressive copy and paste. So they would go and say, okay, these guys want to come to our country. They go copy what they are doing, come and do IPs in South Africa. It's like they build a copy, but in their own kind of local setting. It is an option that actually, someone like government can.
But then there's also the elephant in the room, right? The reason most flourishing companies in Uganda are foreign owned is simply because the cost of acquiring capital as a local Ugandan is absurdly high. So you cannot blame me for your poor choices as government, right? Making it hard for me to get money. And then you bundle me up with these foreigners who come with cheap capital because of exchange rates and whatever, alright? And then me, I struggle, I dig my way through URA and everything, and then you say, now also you list.
Now you list.
You're the guy that made poor choices. That is your problem. Solve it. It is not mine.
I am solving it with a hammer.
The hammer. But you see, the hammer can do more damage
than good. Because now, remember, if these indigenous corporations face those laws, right? And say you put them out on the stock market and they're grabbed or whatever, something happens and they go wrong, right? You're going to end up at square one, which is foreign cheap capital is still overriding your economy. That is what they're trying to do, is treat the symptoms and not the disease, and saying they're being clever about it.
The case in point is you see the jersey you're wearing. KCCA tried to list in '98 when the exchange was new, and the terms and conditions were so rough that they had to scatter. It is one of those things whereby even if someone says, I am willing to, it is not cheap. It is not cheap. And the likelihood of pulling it off without affecting your own, it's okay. For example, I would say that if you look at the numbers for MTN, what they are paying to get these things going, you really need to be in a position where certain things don't affect your cash flow, because you have to pull in the lawyers. It is heavy lifting, real heavy lifting prospectus. You have to get the brokers, you have to get the regulators to agree that what you're saying is good enough, and the whole process, it is very, very costly. So I think for local entities, I think you need to have an approach of where you encourage maybe local guys to try out. You give them like a startup loan.
Okay, what if it's not for locals? What if it's for foreigners? Every foreigner who comes, after 5 years, if you flourish, you list.
Yeah, but again, I think it takes us back to, so there are no, one, to buy the stock, you need the money. They're not handing you the stock for free, right? So if you don't have the money, then the same small people who have the money are going to be the same people buying all the same shares. Of
Yes.
You're reconcentrating capital. So yes, you may be like saying, the argument can be preventing capital flight, but at the same time, you're just putting it in the hands of a few people. It's not that you're doing anything nationalistic at the end of the day. You've dressed your newfound robbery in nationalistic colors and put a claim on it.
Kenny, if you look at it, if you want me to sell, I can say okay, I will sell. Then I get that price, whereby I know someone will look at it and say, this is not worth it. You get? I just price people out of it. You know, I just say okay, I will sell. No problem, I'll sell. But then I'll price. I'll just give them a price. For example, there's a company on the stock exchange called Uganda. It's BAT Tobacco.
British American Tobacco.
Yes. Now that company right now is at about 30,000 per share, and that company was first listed those days in 2000, whatever, and the price was very, very low. It was below 10,000, 5,000, and then it decided to launch a new strategy, a fresh strategy. We Ugandans, if you look at the history, we didn't respond. Actually, the guys who came in were all foreigners. You know, the PE funds, they looked at it and like, oh, this strategy will work out. The company was liquidating so many things. It was going to be having a lot of money on it, and it was going to shift production somewhere else. It was basically something whereby we as natives could not even understand what these guys are trying to do. But all of a sudden, guys came into the economy. The share price kept rising day and night. But people were like, why are these people giving us free money? It's only now that when you look at it, you're like, the thing has performed exceptionally well, but we just did not have the ability to say this thing won't work. I think what I'm trying to get to is there's a limitation in terms of the money resources. Half of our exchange is foreign owned. You know, actually, if you go to value, it may be more than 50%. Now, the other thing is even the resources in terms of the capacity, the knowledge. These are huge gaps. You have to think of listings and the exchange as they are like alternative investments. The way Ugandans are very good at land. Someone will go and say, okay, 50 by 50 in Chanja. They will have a rough estimate and they won't be far. But you say Sipla, the analysis around Sipla, there's that like thing of, it's like a shadow. You don't know what is going on there. So there is that bit of people may fall in very, very risky things, because that is a very dangerous thing. You're starting. Someone can come in, start a Ponzi 5 years, list it. the company shows profit. The company shows this. They do proper marketing. They blow it up. They even do some South Sudan linkage to show they are doing regional integration. And people get excited. The guy just cashes in.
But the most important, like you said, right? Even if you force a company to list, are you restricting the buyers to only natives? Because you may say that I've forced a company to list, and there's a private equity fund from the UK that, by the way, Uganda has people who loiter around, right? Foreigners looking for investment opportunities. They have hundreds of millions of dollars on day.
Classic case is that Uganda Bati. It used to be local owned. Not Uganda Bati. Uganda Clays, and also that Uganda Clays is still majority owned locally. That tobacco company was majority owned by local shareholders. Actually, these guys came through, looked at the company, and they started buying in mass, because the thing must have moved from around 6,000 to 30,000, and they were still buying. Even today, they are still buying.
So really, there's this first thing for nationalistic reasons.
It is a very shaky argument.
I see. So now that we have seen that,
has the language been simplified, we will also understand.
You guys have tried your best. Now that we are done with the whole wedding speeches, let's get to what brought us here. The Mugole, the new entrant in the ballroom. That is MTN.
The debutante.
The MTN's IPO. Have you had a chance to look at the prospectus?
I perused through. I cannot say I read page by page.
They had nice pictures.
Yeah. No, but also the financials look good. It is a business which makes money.
True.
It makes, we used to have a theory. But when you can, you're like, poof, these guys make money.
But you see, Maybe I stopped with the pictures. I find a really good one. These
are the people who used to ask for news. Let me just see the picture.
It magazines,
I'll just see the picture.
What was the name of that cartoon? Modest Blessing.
What?
Modest Blessing.
I studied from international school.
Modest Blessing was a new visual for us. We had the Phantom, Spider-Man on Sunday.
I remember Phantom and Spider-Man.
Modest Blessing was there.
Kingo, yes, that's
what. It was a new vision.
Look at there.
It's Wicked there.
Kingo. So for us, we don't know Modest Blessing.
MTN's IPO. But you see, I didn't get a chance to read through the IPO, right? But I think the thing that is giving me sleepless nights the most, right? Whenever I sit down and think about MTN's IPO, right? Why is because you cannot argue that a company like MTN is short of people willing to fund its activities. You cannot make that argument.
No, you can't.
So you will argue, right, that the government compelled them to list, right? So in actual sense, this is not an IPO, right? This is regulatory compliance, all right? And now, if you're MTN and you've been forced to list, right? Because I remember they were arguing about their license, and then this was one of the terms, and they had to meet Muzei at the sidelines of some conference, and they said, "Fine, we'll give you the IPO." Do you really think MTN as MTN, right, is going to give, because remember, at the end of the day, it's up to the company to announce profits or losses, and it's up to them to decide if they want to pay out dividends or not.
True, absolutely.
So Amazon would announce, say we're not paying out dividends this year, and you're a shareholder, what are you going to do? So do you really think MTN,
unless you
say, let me first answer, you say what are you going to do? There's a famous shareholder activist, one of our friends, he knows himself, he's watching, but continue. He'll go and shout at their AGM.
Yeah, so do you think MTN under these circumstances, right, one, really needs your money? Because this is not an IPO in the sense of an IPO, of an initial public offering where they're looking to raise money to expand activities because they're now popular enough, but they don't have the recognition to go to established financial institutions to get that line of credit. There are all those things at play. So this is not a typical IPO. We're just misusing the word IPO because it has never listed before. But MTN doesn't really need the IPO. That is
I was watching.
Problem number two, let me finish. And then the second question you ask, how do you think, what class of shares and how do you think MTN is going to treat these guys that has been forced to sell shares?
This is what I was saying. I'm adding to your point. I was watching an interview of the CEO. It's called Wim.
Wim. I don't know.
Vimo.
That guy will have to forgive us.
99.9% scoring cash. Okay, I'm Vim. Let's go with Vim.
Interesting. He's only 49.
Work hard, no time.
We all have the same 24
We all have the same 24 hours.
Not counting because you're already 30. You're 19 years till you're the CEO of MTN.
I'm not yet 30. I'm still young.
Anyway, I was watching women. The man insisted like 3 times. The government insisted that we like. He said the compliance, insisting the oil, the energy with which he was using. Feel the compulsion, he was compelled. I'm like, wow, we get your point, sir. You don't have to be passive.
Remember the original guys that put in money into MTN.
Yeah. What?
Are those guys happy? What is going to be their reaction?
No, but it's only 20%, right?
Yeah, but you see, if it comes down to share,
enjoying the whole share.
If it comes down to the money, why should they share my money?
I was talking with him before, and you told me they're going to scrap off mobile money.
Mobile money and MTN are no longer the same company.
No, but in
yes.
its initial, it's.
But if you look at, for example, the trend that most of the Airtel, for example, Airtel.
No, that's also the law.
Airtel Africa has split the mobile money business from the telephony.
Yeah.
And MTN, if you look at some parts of that prospectus, the plan was to also do the same thing. So what they do is that they go get all their mobile money businesses in Africa and regroup them.
So now, are your shares?
And then they can sell them, they can list them somewhere else.
So are your shares in MTN? Are your shares in MTN mobile money?
The other one is a subsidiary, but I don't know if there are any guarantees that the subsidiary will be kept.
Because
it may easily be disposed of at some
let's
point.
be honest. MTN's biggest money maker is mobile money.
And going forward, it may be the driver.
Yes, because data and voice thing is a law. So because the law, the new National Payment Systems Act is why all these things are splitting, right? It forced telecoms to split their mobile money and make them. So yeah, you make the argument that it's a subsidiary. But under what arrangement is that subsidiary?
A very different arrangement. Even the regulator is different.
No, I'm saying in relation to the
different.
parent company, right? Is the subsidiary compelled to repay dividends to the parent company? If so, how is the parent company treating them? And in what proportion?
But the subsidiary is there is a for an ordinary shareholder, there is a wall between me and the subsidiary which makes the money. The wall is simply that this one is the one who has a say here. Me, I only stop here. You know, that is what I think.
So they may just be bundling mobile money to make it look more attractive once you've put in your money.
No, but I read somewhere that it's actually going to be like it's even in the prospectus. It's going to be taken off either 2022 or 2023.
The strategy was that it will be stripped out after some time.
It's going to be
So then, again, which goes back to my question, the shares you buy today, what will be your relation to the new mobile money?
I was reading.
It's an unknown. I genuinely think it's an unknown.
And in the marketing, they said if you buy shares using I think the Momo app or something like that, you get 10% extra shares. That was the offer. But I was reading it later and they said where are these shares going to come from?
Hold on. That's my question. Where is that 10% extra shareholding? Are they giving out shares for free?
Just I think the logic that I saw is that, you know, the guy 20% should turn into about 900 billion. It's like almost $1 trillion. Now the other guy can say that okay, the price may be a little high, so let me sweeten the price in terms of you get something free. So,
but you see,
my like it's just a speculative theory.
It's not allowed legally. Before we go any further, for a company to give out shares for free, it is not allowed. So if I have bought my shares, right, worth 500k, all right, and let's say that entitles me to 20 shares or 50 shares, right?
50, that's 50.
This extra 10%, if it is not allowed for them to give out free shares, then each share must be priced. Where is this coming from?
I have no idea.
And also, what if they oversubscribed? What will happen then?
So oversubscription happened with Safaricom.
No, this is
but you're giving out this 10%.
Just
free extra.
This is where I think the speculation I have is that the shareholder will offer some as a discounted. You know, they will say, okay, he has given $1 million, we shall offer him a 10%.
You're not allowed to do that. Once the share price is set in law, right, it must apply equally across all shares. You're not allowed to give discounted shares or free shares. They must be value for money.
True.
So what they're doing, unless our government has now entered the business of sanctioning illegalities, they're explaining that
But I think that is territory where the regulator will have to, because I've seen even those articles. It's something which is raised, but it is someone like a regulator is the one who can come and tackle that. It's a very kind of high level kind of negotiation they should have had, because it is you can say that, but the regulations if a regulator decides to say, I'll push this through, it's very difficult.
Yeah, but now, okay, fine. So fair enough. Let's say 20%, right? That's a given number of shares. Okay. Let's just do simple math. 20%, let's say 20% is 20 million shares. Roughly, for argument's sake. Right? So 20 million shares, okay? We all, let's say, by accident, we all pay for our shares with mobile money, each looking for the 10%, right? And the money we have paid, right, directly to mobile money, right, equals the value, the 900 billion of this 20 shares, right? But now we're all due to an extra 10%.
Yeah.
Where is that extra 10% happening from?
I think there they will have to go and reissue some more shares. But that is not going to happen. That won't happen. In this scenario, what we are talking about is, okay, you look at the local market we have. And of course they say that they anticipate they are going to onboard about 150,000 new own retail shareholders, which is very good for our local market.
Now, shares are MTN. Now, shares are
So the thing is, the challenge is, what we know for sure is that in our local economy, we cannot raise that money. So, okay, if you look at it as, let's say people pull together all the money they can get. Let's say there are 200,000 shareholders, and each one buys, like 1,000 shares. That's 200k. It will be something like 40, 50 billion. Now, I don't think we can exceed 100 billion, no matter how much we do. Even if I don't think we can, as a collective, Ugandans.
So that goes back to the
maybe
foreigners are going to come and buy it.
Maybe
yes.
It's also very possible that MTN as MTN through various subsidiaries or share companies.
They know who is interested.
They just go and buy back their shares, and the rest.
No, they can't. That would expose them dangerous.
No. You see,
remember, they are listed at the group.
But each company.
They are up there.
No, what I'm saying is this: if MTN owns Smile, Uganda Limited, right?
Okay.
And then MTN gives.
And
then MTN gives Smile Uganda like. So we know what one percent. Just go and buy those shares. In essence, at face value, right? Smile has bought shares in MTN. But once you lift the corporate value, MTN has bought shares in MTN.
I think you can't lift that corporate value.
Exactly. Meaning, because you can't lift it, MTN has still gone back.
If I am a shareholder of MTN in South Africa, and let's say the group has been maybe forced to put off shares in Uganda, there's nothing that stops that shareholder, who we don't know, from coming here and buying the Ugandan. There's nothing that stops them.
I see.
Because all we know is MTN Mauritius International.
I see.
So it is very possible, and it's legal.
Really? To who? More shall be added.
Yes, more shall be given.
I was saying a lot of the initial share price. The 200 shillings. Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's fair price?
You have to put a disclaimer before you say anything.
Me, I don't know. You guys have no price shares in
Okay, me, let me explain for Swan. Swan, I was also watching some YouTube videos. I'm not a genius. So I was watching how they price shares, and I read some articles from my shareholder activist friend. And he said it's more like real estate. It's more like real estate. If you're selling, say, your rentals, you calculate the value they give you a month
times 5
times 10
times
10 or 5 depending. You calculate times 10 or 5. So initially MTN is supposed to calculate the profit they've made, then do the projection.
The profit per month, 10 times 5 years. No, they do the profit they make per month, right?
Per year.
Until now, I was saying profit per month, then they see how much for the year, then they multiply by 5 years.
So,
something like that,
And from the prospectus I raised through the 200 shillings was a bit steeper than the profit they made. But someone told me the market usually corrects that. I don't know. Is it true?
No, Simpler came through at 260. Right now it's at 90.
Wow.
There was a market correction over 2 years. 3 years.
But then you see, that only works when you feel like a vibrant stock exchange, right?
But
Because the largest, so most people don't get dividends from shares, right? In the strictest sense of the word. In more mature stock markets,
Yeah,
right?
yes, usually
So-
it's the gain.
Yeah, so the retail shareholders, their job is to hold, right? When the price goes up, sell, make back your money. That is how they actually make money off stocks, right? Very few are patient enough to wait for dividends. Now, if you come to Uganda, where our stock market is not mature and you're all waiting for dividends,
You know, there's something else I have to raise here. You have to also realize in more mature economies, you don't buy a single stock. You buy a consolidated fund of stocks, whereby if a new stock IPOs, they will get your portfolio and a portion of it will go there. And every month, those guys do monthly sale. It's like they automate the process of investing. So it is much, if you go and get someone, an ordinary worker in let's say what, Greece or in Italy, and you say, hey boss, which companies do you own? He doesn't know. All he knows is he has a retirement fund, and that fund is invested in all these, you get the globals, then the locals, But for them, they have a much more in-depth knowledge of how the markets work. For us, it's more of betting on MTN, or I'm betting on Uganda Clays. Let's see what happens.
I see. Chum, will you be buying some MTN shares?
last time I bought my shares, I got my savings of 1 million and I sank them in 700 euros and I was making 7,000 shillings per year. I have never gone back.
No, but I think it gets to the context. This thing it's an alternative investment, and what happens is that.
But you see, like someone said, don't borrow, don't bet. Like this shit is this is for the rich man.
Yeah.
Or why? If a guy who can sit for 20 years and leave his 50 million there and come back after 20 years.
No, but people do it with land all the time.
Yeah, but you see, land works differently.
We understand it.
Yes.
We understand how land works. Now, the stock market is similar actually. The thing is it's an alternative investment. Let me give you a case in point. Very many people will have no qualms about going to buy an overpriced land. For example, they know an estate is almost filled, and they go around, they see people are now building bungalows. Someone will just like that, something which was like 2 years ago, like at 6 million, someone will go borrow 40 M and put down a total bet. They're going to be paying 16% for the next 25% for the next 5 years on that loan of 40 million there. But all their mind speaks to them is that is more valuable than the stock. It's the same kind of culture here. That okay, does it apply this side? But it would apply this side. Someone can go and say, this is the future I'm going to put here. And then in the next 5 to 10 years, they're either vindicated or the reality comes through in a less glamorous way. But land deals are the same thing. Most folk who sell actually land don't sell it out of necessity. Don't sell it out of necessity.
Oswan asked me to ask a question.
Yeah.
He said, you see with land, they're like willing buyers all the time. Yeah, you understand. So if today I want to liquidate my shares, do I have to wait until someone comes along? Do I have to advertise? Like, see how can I go to like brokers and just sell?
You go to your broker.
MTN will be on a stock exchange. People are talking about the capital regulator, but the actual people who will do the work are the USE, Uganda Stock Exchange, which has the stock brokers. So every person when you're opening up, you're linked to a stock broker. So usually you have their contact, and then if you want to place an order, you place an order, they buy for you. If you want to sell, you place an order. For them, they have a stall in the market. So they know who is selling, they know who is buying, and they know what price you want, what price they want. And if they can't get your price, they'll call you, but there's someone offering this amount of money. Do you want to sell? If you find that it's higher than you bought, good. If it's lower, then you have to take a decision.
So which means, I'm continuing Oswan's question, which means you can negotiate to sell at a higher price than the market price?
In some scenarios, yes, it depends. This is a real typical market. If someone, let's say, buys and sells stuff, you know very well that during seasons where there is plenty, prices will be bad. But scarcity, prices are steep. So it depends on which side of the market you are. If you're selling and things are plenty, things won't be so good. Everyone will have what you're selling. But if you, for example, right now, okay, if you go to the market and you ask, guys, I need this, they'll say, let's wait. Then they will get back and say, that's not available. Then you know you're going to have to take something. But sometimes you're going to say, guys, I'm selling. They're like, no problem. Send in the instruction, by tomorrow you will be settled, or by the end of the week you will be settled. So it is kind of like, it's even when COVID, people got land issues. Monetary squeezes. Guys went to their land to sell, and there was a supply of land. So the land was too much. It was looking for, the money, and people who could actually afford 20 million to buy a plot of land was so few. So people had to go to 15. Mpa 15, a one. Like I will give you 15. So that's how the market determined. People who had bought those 40 million plots, waiting for 5 years for it to be sold, they had to liquidate at 20 million at a deep loss. But because the market at that point was saturated, you could do what? Let me connect it to the stock market. I feel like in this case, I'm not going to say if I'm buying or not, but in this case,
why not? Okay, will you wait? Okay, not say buying or not. Will you buy now or will you wait?
Everyone is interested in a company which makes a lot of money. We will have to monitor that position, that price very closely.
When you say monitor, it's a political way of saying you will wait. Will you buy or will you wait? If you had the money.
You will find I don't have the money.
I'm being hypothetical here. Will you buy or will you wait?
MTN? I think that I would take a more...
It's a political way of saying you'll wait. Everyone will wait. I see.
No, sorry.
Point. No, but I'll wait because of the reasons I gave at the beginning. MTN has been forced to sell. It's not that they need your money, they want it. So you don't know what their behavior will be like once they have gotten your money. You don't know. Does the prospectus state what kind of shares you're getting?
No, they are the same type of shares. But you have to realize MTN will still be a majority shareholder. It will have 76%.
What I'm saying, will your shares be the same as the founder and the guy who invested from South Africa shares? Same class of shares?
Same.
Class?
Yes, everything the same.
You have the same voting rights?
They have more votes.
Of course.
And then that's a different...
76%.
No, I'm saying voting rights. For some shares, you can buy some shares without voting rights. Like
ours have. The MTN ones have very much. But the thing is, you just don't have enough.
Yes, you cannot stay here.
You can't.
All right.
All you have to do, you will shake the AGM, you will shake the regulator, shake the newspapers, but the guy at the end of the day has all the power.
So anyway, I think the general vibe you guys are giving me is like people should first calm down with the excitement. First calm down with the excitement. Let them not sink their savings into these shares.
Case in point, I would say is that that the market MTN is in, it's not a monopoly. There's another player who is also going to come to the market sooner or later. Wouldn't you be interested in seeing milk or soda? Which one? Something like that.
I see, and even with the mobile money business that you're very hard, there are some platforms that are crossing borders. Wave and all that.
Wave actually has a license as well.
That are threatening to come and make things more competitive.
And that business model is difficult. Free stuff. Like I saw they have a lot of freeisms in there. Free deposits, free transfers. Yeah. They only charge on some things, but I read it up and
1.5%.
Yes. Yeah. It was so little. It's 1% actually. And I was like,
So even the mobile money that you're crying about,
it is something whereby it's such a volatile market. I think whoever is interested should buy. The also other thing is that I'll say it's very interesting that it's one thing to go and say hey, from outside, But sometimes even if you get that initial 100k, they say the minimum, you get the 100k and put it there. It gives you skin in the game. You think about it, you're like, I've suffered. By the time you come and say, you've also gone through the pain of, or you've gone through the success, you've enjoyed. That thing of, you only put the money.
I have to ask, UCC has not compelled Airtel,
Defunct,
Africell, Laika Mobile, and all these other guys.
I think for Airtel, they will have to come onto the market because Airtel Uganda is very profitable in the group. So I think they will have to consider it. I don't think they can go. But for Africell, they realize maybe the license is getting done. They're like, is it worth it paying more money? Let's just go before things get too hot. But for Airtel, for sure, I'm sure they will have to come.
And like is a new entrant. Why did they force them?
Yeah, they are also going to be coming in the future.
They need to.
But because I don't know if there's profit making as MTN.
At least we'll have somewhere to air out our internet issues.
Remember, Bagalarina, like a Taina, sister Magara.
Please, that's a big company in Australia, in the UK, like
not in Uganda.
It's growing.
The village bere in your village is not the village bere in my village. Let us skip that.
It's coming. Anyway, any closing remarks on the MTN IPO?
Well, for me, I think okay.
No, I'm telling him to clap.
I mean, like any IPO, for me, whenever I see those things, I'm always thinking, you would want more local IPOs from local founded companies. It is not something which can solve the repatriation thing. You can imagine that you can go try and localize the company. 10-20 years later, you realize the company has been rebought. The shares have been rebought out of the country. You get it is something which we risk doing. Like even when came, it was a local company, but then slowly, if you go and look at its shareholder list, it has been eked back into the actual, the original backers of 2005 or 2006 was guys. They came back through other means and picked up their company, or they lent it money because maybe wanted to borrow, and who has the money? It's the guy who helped you start. So I think the idea should be to devise means to find local entities that can IPO. If it's going to be maybe with funding, there are countries which have startup acts, and it's an extremely privileged act.
Uganda has a tax act.
No, yes.
No, I'm saying other countries have a startup act. For us, we have the tax act.
No, we need maybe someone in a position that can execute that.
Man is a Muhima.
Maybe he can pitch something to someone, whisper into someone's ear somewhere. No, but the thing is, I don't think you trying to lock someone in the house, necessarily. This is capital flows. Unless Uganda say no more money coming out of Uganda, like Nigeria did. Nigeria actually IPO'd after long battles with MTN. But its big beef was that MTN was making so much money that it was just crazy. Nigeria has so many people, and when you have a consumer business which is as sticky as these things, literally, you think about it this way: the line I have, I die with it.
Come and buy.
So either I'm broke, either I don't. Even if I don't have a job, even if I have a job, this I have to pay this guy every month. Every time I think of making a call, I am paying this guy. Actually, in our markets, I don't, in other markets, they pay after they bill you at the end of the month. Us, they bill you before you do anything. You just hold the airtime when you've already paid the guy. So it is a cash-rich kind of business. But trying to get, it's a good business model. Now we try to tie it down. I don't think it's, I think you would rather even focus on, let's say, MTN has very, very big ecosystem. It's a massive company. It pays a lot of people to do stuff which is not its core. Maybe we can focus on getting Ugandan companies to be the suppliers instead of the thing you're saying, maybe group. You can say, what is it that Ugandans can do? Can we be the guys who, a local company cleans all MTN shops, a local company does all refabrication of MTN outlets, something like that. and then you bring that company to the stock market, the ecosystem of it. I think it's very difficult to achieve what?
Using shares.
Yeah.
Closing remarks.
When Uganda, we need to get serious about how we fund companies. I'll tell this story. So far, it's the second story I will die telling in my life. I went to a bank whose names are not mentioned, and I told them I have a local purchase order. Here are the guarantees. Here is all the paperwork. All I need is 90 million. These are the you're not even giving the money to me, right? Get the money, transfer it to this account. This guy gives me what I need. I go and supply the guy of the LPO, right? I bring back your money. I keep mine, you keep yours. In 2 weeks the deal is done. We all go home. Life is good. And this bank told me, now you need a loan of 90 million, despite all this paperwork and guarantees. Why don't you first deposit 90 million with us security? And then we loan you 90 million. And this person told me this with a very straight face.
Yes.
I'm not laughing. And I asked them, why would I give you 90 million if I had 90 million for you to lend me back that 90 million? Like, we should get serious about some of the activities we are doing as a nation. So we can make all the arguments until the cows come home, right? But until Ugandans become a sensible lot, I would be an advocate of find better ways to fund local companies, right? There are circles that have money stuck in them, all right? Investing in land, rent, Create safe and easy to use ventures avenues, right? For companies starting up to be profiled, they do their due diligence, and then some of these circles can come and put in a little money, and secure their investment and all that, right? Leave this focus on the stock market, because these circles have a lot of money, because it's collected from a lot of
evidence.
No, what I'm saying is these companies, right, have a lot of money.
True.
And it's collected for it's the small sums that Ugandans can afford, but gathered in a large group. Right?
True.
So if you can, find a way of making this profitable. We have NSSF that sits on trillions of shillings. And when you ask for midterm access, they tell you, we lent Rwanda, we lent Tanzania, we lent Kenya. There are companies here struggling, looking for Bazungu to come and give them money at unfavorable terms. And then you go and say that MTN is IPOing, let's get excited. That's just a smokescreen. And then you have a bank giving you capital at 25% interest per month. We are the most expensive capital in the region.
True.
So there is no capital, right?
True.
Their funding avenues are very limited, right? We have crazy terms from banks, right? And we think that it is the MTN IPO going to make us prosperity or keep money in the country. The system is broken from the ground up. Leave MTN to steal their money. Let them take it.
They are making money legitimately.
Leave. Okay, whatever.
Okay, just leave them.
Leave them. You have more pressing concerns.
Yes.
You cannot start arguing that the other guy is making money and he's spending it on buying a new car. Your children are starving. Focus on the things that you need to focus on, right? So before we get excited and carried away by it, there's this young gentleman from some this man says no free ads. There's this young gentleman from some telemedicine organization that is running around New York. He's on Twitter all the time looking for capital. NSSF is lending money to Rwanda. During the day we're fighting with Rwanda. Somehow this is supposed to make sense. But MTN is IPO.
Can I do it?
I want to close it because remember he's closing.
So I would say, right? Break funding into Uganda into small. Like, make smaller, like, stock markets or funding markets, right? Leave the other securities exchange for the big guns. Find the smaller guys. Focus on those guys, all right? Then if the other guys, you feel that they are digging money out of the economy, don't force everyone to list. Go and find creative ways to, close the loopholes. If their accountants and lawyers get creative, also you get creative. You're being paid the salary by taxpayers to be creative. You're not being paid the salary by taxpayers to grow fat and drive a car.
That's something against fat people and cars also.
Yet is also fat. But I'll give you 1 second.
Okay, thanks. So, what? Just to say, I think we have to own the problem, all of us. Ugandans, we don't save enough. We don't save enough. Yeah, then the other thing we need to do is we need to also look at. I'm meaning this is not like today, tomorrow. I'm meaning long term. We need to see that people do actually save more, because saving, being able to create credit, give loans and what what? Is a factor of saving. And if you look at our local market, most of the banks are foreign owned. So we are not using our own money to actually create credit. It's someone else's money somewhere that they are risking in Uganda. We are not actually creating the money. The second thing is, if what has happened is the clear example is this year or last year. Last year, you remember Homeboys, Kenya. They listed on the stock exchange. Yes, they have a radio station, DJ and events management company. They registered in Kenya. So in Uganda, we actually also have a small companies exchange. And very few people have actually listed on
This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
No, it exists. It was not like a few years ago, like I think 5 years plus. But very few people go there. So for me, what I would say, maybe clarity. If you go to South Africa, on their exchange page, they will show you small company below this sales number. These are the listing costs. You give them your turnover, you give them this. They throw a spreadsheet out for you with all the legal fees you need to list. And nothing can take 2 months, and you've listed. You just bring your auditors, they do compliance, and then you list, and then people give you capital. So I think what happens is, we need to build better businesses, we need to save more, and then the knowledge. Because very few people know about that assets class, because it is a real good asset class, stock exchange, stocks and what.
So you're saying, what is it, this thing of Steve J? Phenon events, and also... If those guys run ship, because remember, the Homeboys guys, it's owned by the husband, brother, and wife. But they said, okay, we are going to give out.
Homeboys puts out some very nice...
Yes, but it's a well-run business.
Yeah, it's
and they're now on the stock exchange.
I see.
I've never met a Homeboys mix I didn't try.
Silk events, Phenon, Balam are listening. They'll take
What is Balam's
my closing...
Is that Balam's logo an orange shirt?
That will be edited.
No, because you see, his office is dozens of Intina. His logo is actually someone in orange. That's it. It's the end of the black circle. Like, I'm not lying.
You guys don't believe that.
I look for it.
My closing remarks are from Oswan. Oswan sent me one. It says...
So we're going to charge him consultation.
Yeah, by the way, we are sending him an invoice.
Yeah.
He's saying, for him, how he sees it, it's 2 elephants are fighting in the case of MTN and UCC, and the Muntua ones, the people going to invest, are the ones going to suffer. How philosophical someone who is not as deep as you. Thank you guys for watching. We hope.
Let me close this with a parable. With the famous Oswan parable. To supplement that 2 elephants and the grass. So it was someone who swallows a coconut whole. Has complete faith.
Our time is up. Guys, see you next week. Thank you for coming. Peace.